Wonderful day and welcome. My name is Seth and we are back with the next weapon guide for Monster Hunter Frontier, featuring the Lance if it was made by Square Enix, the Gunlance. Someone thought, oh, Lance is so boring in the design team and slapped a gun onto it. Kinda like Final Fantasy VIII with the gun blade, we have now the Gunlance. And yes, it is Lance, but with a gun. We're gonna check it out, obviously, just like the other weapons. So I'm gonna hop into the quest and see you then in Earth style for the weapon. Here we are with the Gunlance and its Earth style. Today from one of my favorite old gen maps, because I have a lot of memories and nostalgia going on when I'm playing on this. So before we start, on the right side of the screen you're gonna see a controller layout for Xbox One and PS4 controller. They mimic my input in real time, so you can see when I'm pressing for what attack, etc. And this is just to visualization help and better understanding if you have trouble understanding me speaking or something, that you can still see what I'm pressing and still translate what I'm doing to whatever you're doing. And the same for keyboard and mouse. If you see something and the controller being pressed, or me saying, yeah, I use the main attack button, it does like this. Just figure out what that does on, or what the key is on your keyboard layout, and then just translate whatever it is, and you can do the exact same things on the keyboard. Also, do not constantly spam Y and triangle button or circle and B button. I'm gonna refer to those as the main attack and the side attack button, since those are the mainly used ones. The other buttons are usually more coherent, so they don't need any special names. What is Gunlance? Well, Gunlance is Lance, but there's a gun attached to it. You have the possibility to shoot shell ammunition, which does fixed damage to the monster, kinda like bombs. The specialty here is that, other than the Gunlance and other games, the shell damage actually scales off raw damage. For people who play Gunlance and other Monster Hunters, for this, hearing this is probably like a huge revelation, like something they always wanted, or maybe then now they needed it, but now they have it. So Gunlance has the attachment of guns to it and the possibility to shoot. If you look into your equipment, you can see that the Gunlance has, next to the attack value, two values, the level and it's a spread shot. This means this Gunlance is a spread type Gunlance. There's three different types. You have the spread, the normal and the long shot, and depending on that there's some stuff that changes. Then you have also levels, which show the overall strength of the shelling, and it goes up to level 9. Also, sigils exist that can change your Gunlance type, like your gun type, from like long to spread or spread to normal, etc. So if you have a Gunlance you like in stats, but you don't like the shelling type, you can change it to whatever you want. So let's start with the basic movesets or the attacks. So first of all, we do have our normal bread and butter combos. Because this weapon is based off Lance, we have the normal Lance stabs you will normally be able to do with Lance. The forward stabs on the main attack button can be chained 3 times, as you will do with Lance, and then you have a cooldown in the animations for recovery. Then you can also press forward while doing the main attack button to do a little forward dash, and then a little mini rising slash instead, and then go over into the normal stabs. This is for repositioning and getting closer to the monster to just get some room. Forward dash counts as the first stab, so you can only do 2 stabs right after it, and then it has the recovery cooldown, so it's something to keep in mind. But the other thing we have here in stab mechanics, just like the Lance, is the upward stabs. You can do these though a bit differently. You need to press the main and side attack button to do the rising slash, and then you can spam the main attack button to do 2 more stabs upwards, kind of like the Lance with the side attack button where you just stab upwards, right? So this is how you access it here. Then we have also the block stance from lands in here. You can press R1 to go into the block stance and block attacks in front of you. The property for lance blocking is also taken over, so you can block in 220 degrees in front of you instead of 180, like SNS for example does. And you can also move while blocking with a little forward tiptoeing, I'm gonna call it, to safely get closer or away from the monster while have the possibility of blocking an incoming attack. Then we have also Strong Guard from Lance taken over, so if you go into the block stance, you can press the IWS button to go into a stronger block version, which doesn't have the Guard +2 effect, but you can block in 360 degree, just like the Lance, and it does consume stamina while using it and automatically stops when you run into the red portion of your stamina bar. You can still move, just like the Lance 2 in the Strong Guard, but it's again super damn slow. And if you get attacked from behind while doing this, you still block the damage, but you get staggered nonetheless. So you get knocked out after this animation for sure. Then we're gonna come to the shelling mechanic. The shelling mechanic of the Gunlance is its unique feature, and it enables you to shoot bullets or little shells to do explosive damage in front of you. This is fixed damage, but it scales in Frontier again with raw damage off, so it is stronger than you normally would think in the other games. It's kind of like ignoring the defense of the monster in that regards. On the hit zones, it just shoots through them, so very handy and useful. How much bullets you have, you can see in the top left corner next to your sharpness and under the stamina bar. This is your resource bar for your Gunlance and shows you how much bullets you have. The bullets also pretty sure depend on which gun type you have, like how many bullets you have. They have like a default value, and there are skills that can increase the load capacity of these shells, so you can get more of them. And if you now press the side attack button, you can see that you do the shell damage and then one of the bullets get lost. If you run out of these bullets, then you can't do them at all and you need to reload your weapon first. Otherwise you do this like little "oh, I'm out of a bullet" animation, and this can be getting pretty tricky. If you do this accidentally and then the monster is charging at you, you will get hit. Trust me, it hurts. It costs sharpness every time you use a shell bullet, so keep that in mind. And you can also use them after the upward stab animation. So I'm gonna reload real quick, and then when we do the upward stab and then afterwards do the shelling after the attack, then we do the shell upwards instead of just in front of us. This helps with redirecting the damage for it, and you can obviously chain this after any attack and then just go with the combat flow. To reload your bullets, you just saw it already, but you can just press the shield stance and then press the side attack. This reloads all your bullets that are empty currently in your shell depository. So even if you miss only one bullet, you can still reload, and then reloads just whatever amount of bullets you're missing for that gun. If your sharpness though is on orange sharpness, then the damage of the shells is reduced by 25%. So you only do like 75% damage with shells if you do not sharpen your weapon. And if you go into the red sharpness version, then you can't shoot shells at all. So keep that in mind if you shooting like crazy and don't look at your sharpness and wondering why can I not use any shells. Then we have the side steps, of course. When you have your weapon drawn, you can do the dodge or evade button and then just do a side hop to the back. But if you do it after an attack, you can do left or right input with the dodge button together to do a right or left dodge instead, or side stab instead. This costs stamina every time, so keep that in mind. And other than the lance, you can't chain this 3 times in a row, but you can do chain it twice in a row to do like a different version of the side stab, like side hop, which is a very quick shell dodge or shell hop. I'm not sure what to call this. It just, you shoot your shell to propel yourself, and this doesn't cost an actual shell. It is just visually a thing. So if I do like just do the normal dodge now twice. You see I spent twice the amount of stamina for 2 steps, but I do like some very quick distancing in whatever direction. I can do this to left and right too, so we can do left and then to the right, as long as we have enough stamina for that. So keep an eye on your stamina, otherwise you may be stuck in the animation and then you're like, oh, well, I'm gonna get hit. Very useful to reposition yourself. Then we have the Wyvern Fire. Probably everyone knows the Wyvern Fire. This is like a thing, a staple of the weapon since ever. There is some stuff to it. Wyvern Fire is a massive explosion that does a lot of damage. It has a cooldown, which can be influenced with certain skills to be quicker. The general rule is that you can use it only once every now and then. To show everything off, I need to have like wait time in between here, so I need to record this like in between each Wyvern Fire shots. Sorry for that. So I'm gonna explain them first and then I'm gonna do them. So the first normal Wyvern Fire is accessed with main and side attack button while you're shielding. So if I go into the shield stance and then press the main and side attack button, I can do and start the Wyvern Fire. You can't move while doing this. You charge up a massive explosive shot which does a lot of damage, and you can influence the direction to left and right a little bit from your standpoint where you start shooting it. So keep that in mind and be careful that you don't like turn around and the monsters behind you while you're doing the Wyvern Fire and then pretty much just miss it. Because again, you have a cooldown, so missing this massive damage is not good if you have the opportunity to get this out of the monster, because it's a lot of DPS loss for yourself. But I'm gonna demonstrate the normal Wyvern Fire because there's more to it in Frontier here than it looks like. So I'm in the block stance and press the main and side attack button. I can change the direction to left and right as you see there. And if that happens, the gun lances have a visual indicator on the tip of the weapon, usually like in the middle. There's like this gas coming out and you have like a little thing for cooldowning the weapon, like I don't know, call this like an air shaft or something, which gets up there. So that is the visual cue. When this thing goes down and is ready again, then you will be able to do another Wyvern Fire. I'm gonna wait for this because I'm gonna do another one and I see you in a bit. Something you maybe should note down for this is that the Wyvern Fire while charging makes you immune to knockback. So you have auto immunity to knockback while charging that Wyvern Fire, and in front of you you even have a guard point. So you can actually block attacks while doing the Wyvern Fire and at the same time don't get knocked back, and you can do the full animation when charging. As you can see here, my weapon is loaded again, the Wyvern Fire is ready again, the cooling vent is like closed, and what you can do now is you can do a vertical Wyvern Fire when you do it right after the upward stab. So if I do the main and side attack button to do the like upward rising slash, I can then press the R1 and main and side attack button for the Wyvern Fire you normally want, and then you can shoot the Wyvern Fire upwards, which can actually protect your teammates, and you can still do the Wyvern Fire safely onto the monster. If it's a bigger one, on a smaller one, obviously this won't work because you're shooting upwards instead of like in front of you. So keep that in mind if you fighting certain monsters. You can protect your teammates not getting shot and propelled back to lose DPS, or helpful stuff like hunting horn users, like playing songs, etc. So that is a nice tool for multiplayer to keep in mind, but it's also helpful for reaching monsters that are upwards or flying or levitating with the Wyvern Fire when you don't have a good position on the ground. Then there's one more thing, and that is the Super Wyvern Fire. There is a second version of the Wyvern Fire in Frontier, and to do this you need to load your shells, your ammo for shells, into the Wyvern Fire. So you need to have shells in your depository, and then you can load them into your Wyvern Fire to do a Super Wyvern Fire. This increases obviously the damage and is better than the normal Wyvern Fire. But the thing to note here is, if you use skills that go above the like normal shell capacity, so as you can see here on this, like I think it was a spread one we have right now, On the spread one we have right now, we have 2 bullets as default, without any skills. If I increase this bullet count now to like 4 or something, all the additional bullets after the base bullet amount will have reduced scaling. They will still improve the damage, but it's like not as good as the base ones. And this depends on the type of the Gunlance, on the shelling type. So on normal you only get like 60% of the damage scaling. On long you get 50%, and on spread you have only 25% of the damage scaling that gets additionally added up to it. And we're gonna go ahead and do a super Wyvern Fire now. To do this, you just simply do a Wyvern Fire, and while the Wyvern Fire is like loading up, you do press the reloading combo. So in this case here for the controller, it's R1 and side attack, or like the B button for reloading. And we're gonna demonstrate this here. Wyvern Fire, reload, and then you can see reload. And as you can see, we loaded the bullet in there to get more damage and the special super Wyvern Fire. Then we have also the quick reload mechanic. This mechanic allows you to reload after using a shell right directly after it. And when you do this, you're gonna enhance the next bullet shot for a small amount of time with 50% damage. So you can see this on the shell count up there. Just keep an eye on that. So I'm gonna shoot and immediately reload, and then I get the quick reload. And as you can see, the bullet is flashing up. This means this bullet has 50% increase. But as you saw right now, there is a cooldown to this. So you have only a certain time window to shoot that bullet to do the like special shot, and it's 50% more damage, so it is definitely worth it. And then last but not least, we have one more attack, that is the horizontal swipe. To access this, we have 2 ways. The first one is when you have your weapon unsheathed and then run at the monster, you can then press the main and side attack button together to go into the horizontal sweep. The second version to access it is with the quick reload. So after you do a quick reload, you can then press main and side attack button to do a wide or horizontal sweep too. The specialty now here is that you can, right after the horizontal sweep, also use all the bullets in your shelling counter up there and use them for a special shoot attack right after. This animation and explosion depends on your shelling type. So if you have normal, spread or long, the animation will be different and hits different. You have a spread in front of you, you have like a narrow shot straight in front of you and like a pointy one in front of you. It's hard to show them all right now, but I just show you the one I have on this one. So if we do the horizontal sweep, then we can press the shelling button, the side attack button, to do a special animation on top of that, as you just saw. And this is the spread version. The other ones look different, the normal one and the long one, so keep that in mind. But they do all the same, and that is loading, like unloading all your shell for massive damage. And that is it for Earth Style. I hope I didn't explain it too complicated, because I needed to dive into that myself a little bit, but we're gonna check out Heaven Style, and I see you on the next quest. Alright, back with Heaven Style now. Let's take a look what's going on here, because now it gets a bit spicy and you wanna take notes. First of all, there's one change. The Heaven Style has the exact same moveset as the Earth Style, with one juicy change, and that is replacing the Wyvern Fire. I know you're thinking, what? Why won't you replace the Wyvern Fire? That was like the staple gimmick of the weapon. Well, because you have now a new mechanic, and that is the Heat Blade. And there's a bunch of things we need to take note for the Heat Blade. We're gonna go after each other. You activate the Heat Blade just as you would normally the Wyvern Fire, because it replaces it, of course. There's a lot of things happening if you do that. Let's see how it looks like first. You're gonna go into this animation, which takes a bit of time, and then it activates the Heat Blade. The indicator for this is that your attacks now have a Heat Blade motion, or like a Heat Blade animation on top of their tip. And on the sharpness icon on the top left, you can actually see a red bar going down because that is the cooldown timer for the, or like the timer for the heat blade activation. So you have 120 seconds for the heat blade to be active, and then it goes into the Vibrant Fire cooldown as normally you won't have, and that's it. Then you need to wait until the Vibrant Fire cooldown is gone, and then you can use the heat blade again. What happens now exactly? First of all, you get the new finisher move inside of this heat blade, and you can do this as a finisher after any like combo, stab combo you normally do. So you can do like 3 stab combos normally, as you know, and if you press the main and side attack button right after that, you can do a finisher, like a crushing heat blade smash. And this is actually, ironically, the strongest attack right now in, or like from the base combos, the strongest attack from the stabbing, and it hurts. You probably want to use this whenever you can, because it does hurt a lot. The heat blade itself performs depending on your sharpness level, Vibrant Fire, and weapon type, like the shell type. And additionally, the heat blade also gives you like fire elemental damage on top of that while using the fire, like the heat blade. This depends on like the shelling type, etc., and which level the has. For example, if we have normal level 1 Gunlance, then we get like 50 fire elemental on top of the heat blade attacks. And basically, depending on your sharpness level, you get like 85% of that sharpness level scaled into, etc. It's like some math stuff, which I'm really bad at, but just now it scales off these factors. I'm saying that because there's different buffs you get while being in the heat blade, and these are important. First of all, if you use the heat blade, you're gonna get your weapon to maximum sharpness. As you can see here, I have green sharpness right now, but if I go into the heat blade now, you will see that it gives me the message as I won't do sharpen my weapon, and I get up to maximum sharpness. That is intentional. This is how it works. While you being in the heat blade, you will have maximum sharpness and infinite sharpness. So the heat blade cranks up your sharpness levels to whatever your max is, and while being in the heat blade, you also have infinite sharpness, so you don't lose sharpness when using this heat blade. And yes, if you use shells, that counts too, so you don't lose sharpness when using shells. Additionally on that is that the heat blade animation on top of your blade extends the hitbox of your weapon, so you do actually can attack further than before. You also get more motion values on all your attacks, like the stab attacks. And additionally on top of that, you also get 100% affinity. The only real downside is if the heat blade runs out, you're gonna lose fixed 250 sharpness. That's a given. It's really not that bad, because you can easily just sharpen it back afterwards, and then the Vibrant fire cooldown goes off, you can just use it again. Or you just don't care and just wait for the Vibrant fire cooldown. You don't even need to sharpen, because you just get the sharpness back for the heat blade duration and then just go back into battle. Of course, it is 120 seconds long only, so that is probably the second downside of it. But it's actually not that bad. Gunlance is actually crazy in Frontier. And the last but not least effect is that all your attacks in the heat blade do not bounce off monsters anymore. So that is very nice, because I hate bouncing. But that's it. That is all you get in Heaven style. But it is a complete new mechanic, so note down, and we're gonna go over to Storm style and see what's going on there. I see you in the next quest. Alright, we are back with Storm style, and we just have one additional change compared to Heaven style, and other than that, to say Moveset. The change is that your shell damage is now based on elemental of your weapon. So there's various sources which say, well, the shells of your weapon is based on your elemental, but from what I observed, it only happens in Heat Blade, not the normal shells. Like, as you can see here, If I just shoot normally, we just have the normal fire damage on shells that Gunlance has by default. But if we go now into Heat Blade and then use shells, it turns into the element of my weapon, which in this case is ice element. So as you see here, we then have ice element shots. So I'm not sure if that is just like a misconception or something, or misinformation right there. And I can just go based off my experience and observations. So maybe someone can enlighten me what they exactly mean with that. That they like all turn shell damage into elemental, but well, who knows? Maybe there's some secret I don't know about. But yeah, as you can see, the shell damage turns into elemental damage based on your weapon's elemental. So if you shoot shells now in Heat Blade, you have ice shots instead of the normal shots. In the case of like having multiple elements, like a compound element which has multiple elements in one, then you will do elemental damage based on all these elements. So if you have something like the music element, then you do all the elements that are integrated in that music element on that elemental shell damage. In the case of having just raw damage and no elemental damage, you will get some damage boost based on the Wyvern Fire, so you get like a mini Wyvern Fire on top of the shell damage. And that's it for Storm Style. Really, there's nothing else. We can just go over into Extreme Style and check out what's going on there. So I'm gonna see you on the next quest. Alright, now we take a look at the Extreme Style of the weapon. Extreme Style is a very high mobility style which allows every weapon in that style to run with your weapon unsheathed. Normally you can sprint with your character like this, which consumes stamina and you have some quick movement. But with Extreme Style you're able to do extreme running, which is the same as sprinting but with your weapon out of your sheath. So you pretty much can stay in the flow of combat and attack while doing so. Each weapon has usually like unique attacks they can do from this extreme running position. Obviously this costs stamina, like normal sprinting you will do with the weapon like unsheathed normally. And the speed of how fast you run is determined by your weapon type too. Like if you have a heavier weapon like the Gunlance, then you don't run as fast as someone with the SNS. The Extreme Style itself is a mix of all the other styles on Gunlance, so you have a Jack of all trades style for Gunlance, and we have everything we usually have for the other styles, including we have the Wyvern Fire bag and the Heat Blade at the same time. So the biggest change or addition is basically the extreme running, and this actually gives you a few options to do. So if you do extreme running, you can access the horizontal swipe from this position immediately. So if you just run like this and then press the main attack button, you can do the forward like normal dash. You can just do the side attack for the normal shell attack, or you do the main and side attack for the horizontal sweep. And of course you can just use the sweep as you normally would, so you can unload your shells immediately too. Then you can also do an explosive shell dodge or shell movement forward, like propelling you forward. You can only do this forward, but it does like give you some speed at distance. And you have the option to immediately do a shell attack, like shooting immediately like a quick shot, or doing the new variation of the horizontal swipe, which is actually the stronger version, or like the strongest attack in the style in terms of like normal like attacking. And you can also, while running with extreme running, you can also reload your gun, which is a bit tricky to get used to, because if you start reloading, you can't change directions. You need to run until you're reloaded, and then you can start like changing directions in anywhere else. So keep that in mind. You lock down to the animation when starting to run, and you can keep running afterwards, of course, to keep in the flow of combat. So you can back off from the monster with extreme running if there's an attack happening. Can reload your gun and shells and then go back in immediately to just do your thing. But beside the extreme running, we also have one more addition, and that is the extreme violent fire. So instead of the super violent fire, you can load now an additional like shell into your violent fire to do the extreme violent fire. This is very much worth it, because the extreme violent fire is double the damage of the super violent fire, and it hurts. It does hurt a lot. And to do this, you simply do the exact same thing as before. You just use reload while using the violent fire. So you can do this twice now and have the extreme violent fire. Looks epic and it hurts epically. Then to access the heat blade now, you simply just press the select or kick button. As I said, you have the heat blade now on top of the violent fire bag, so you can do one of the two. Extreme style is a jack of all trades one. Very smooth and feels very great. I didn't play like Gunlance at all ever, so this one actually makes me wanna play Gunlance. But that's it for Gunlances and its styles, and we're gonna go to the city and talk about the tech skills and the active feature. Back in the city now, let's take a look at the active feature and the tech skill. And the active feature you can see in the top left corner. And when you're in the city, you have the icons with the different weapon types, and if the icon is red, that means the active feature or the active buff for the weapon is active on the server for 24 hours. Then it switched to a different set depending on your server like configurations, and you have a different active feature. These buffs are different for each weapon type, of course, and you have a variety of effects which can help optimizing fights or DPS for certain things. So you maybe want to wait to do like certain speed runs or farming certain monsters you trouble with when you get your hands on the special buffs. And for Gunlance, this is pretty straightforward. We have 50% more raw damage scaling for the shell damage, including fire or like non-attribute damage like violent fire, etc. It's like 50% stronger, straight up. Then we also have tech skills, and tech skills are tailored compound skills for each weapon type. Each weapon type has its own compound skill or tech skill, which includes one skill activation, but you get various buffs in one. Each tech's skill has 4 positive versions, 1 hidden one and 1 negative. The hidden one is useless because it gives you on melee weapons only sharpness +1 with very specific and restrictive conditions to activate, and you have way better means to get sharpness, so it's not really worth it getting into that at all, so we're gonna ignore that. The negative one usually just reduces your damage by 20% for the weapon, so we're gonna ignore that too, and we're gonna go over the 3 positive versions for the tech skill itself. So if you build like specific sets for your weapon, you definitely want to prioritize these tech skills first, because they're very helpful. And on the expert level, the first positive one on the Gunlance tech is fencing skill for your Gunlance. And then you have on the master level 10% damage increase and fencing for your Gunlances. And then on the last one, which always has a fancy name for each weapon type, which in this case is the Shelling Emperor, you have super high grade earplugs, 20% damage increase when yielding a Gunlance and fencing. The Violent Fire and Heat Blade cooldown is reduced by 50%, so you halve the cooldown there. Heat Blade activates 3 seconds faster, and you get additional shells for your Gunlance type. So if you have normal shell, you get +2 extra shells. When you have long and spread, you also get +1 extra on top of the base value. This also stacks with skills I mentioned way earlier, which increase the shell count, so you can combine these and get a crazy amount of shells into your weapon, which will exponentially increase the damage when you do the horizontal swipe and unload the entire magazine. You can imagine how that hurts. But that's it for the Gunlance itself, and we can move on to the next weapon. I'm gonna say thank you for listening in. I hope you had some help with this video, and I'm gonna see everyone in the next video. Thanks for dropping by. I love y'all. Have a good night, and bye-bye.